Coronavirus has meant that many people have died in hospital without anybody there to be with them at their hour of need or at the hour of death. So no family members, no friends at their side. And some hospitals have been doing what they can to ensure that patients aren't alone. But this has been a great opportunity for chaplains, particularly at London's Nightingale, the kind of flagship Nightingale hospital. It has two chaplains, a Catholic priest and a Muslim imam, who've been offering prayers, hope and comfort for patients and their families. We're joined today by the Catholic chaplain for the Nightingale in London at the Excel Centre, Father James Mackay. It's good to have you with us, Father James. So how did you get involved with the Nightingale at the Excel Centre?
Well, I'm the parish priest in which you find the NHS Nightingale, or the Excel Centre as it used to be known. And I was throwing some things away in the skip, using lockdown to do those tasks that I don't normally get a chance to do. And the news said that the Excel was going to be a hospital, so I figured I've got to be involved in some way. And then about 5 minutes later, my Vicar General called up and said, "I'd like you to be involved in some way." So I was like, okay. So he said, put together a plan and keep us informed. So now, obviously on the news, they were talking about 4,000 patients and 4,000 beds. So I figured, well, with the best will in the world, there's no way I'm going to be able to do that on my own. So I began to put together a short list of priests, healthy and available, to put together some kind of a 24-hour rota of presence and availability. And at present, that's become the model for the whole multi-faith chaplaincy. So that's basically what we're doing across the board now. So it's been an intense month, but as I've said to people all around me, probably one of the most meaningful and valuable months of my ministry as a priest.
Well, it's really encouraging as a Catholic to see that priests are there with people at their kind of hour of need. What's been your experience like? Because you've been doing this for a couple of weeks now, am I right? And what's it been like? What does it look like day to day? How often are you going? What's the experience been like?
Well, it's been extremely intense. Unlike a lot of the news that was coming through, perhaps that priests and clergy had no access to patients, that we wouldn't be able to administer the sacrament. At least at the Nightingale, that's proven false. There's an openness there which comes with I suppose you could call it a startup hospital. You know, people are like, oh, you go and visit people who are sick? Sure, great, okay, do that, wear the PPE and take the precautions. And so I feel like the Nightingale has pioneered the importance in this period of actually having family members and significant people like, you know, priests and imams close at hand for patients. So to be on a ward where everyone is unconscious, where everyone's on ventilation, it's already the biggest ITU in the country, is an experience like no other. I'm used to going to hospitals where people are in different states of health, I suppose, some unconscious, some recovering, and all the ways in between. But here, everyone is close to the edge in some way. I had one call where I just went in to anoint two people, and the first person I anointed, I got to the second one, that person went into cardiac arrest. And then as I witnessed that happening, they brought him back. I was called by some person to pray with a Hindu family member who was in there visiting a family member. It was very, like, emotionally, it really, like, it drains you down. But when you get home in the evening, like, I just think I was made for this. You know, this is frontline ministry. You know, where people need a priest, God puts you. So that's one aspect of it. But when we went into this ministry, we weren't planning to be bedside. We figured, you know, as per government guidelines and the cautionary approach they were taking, that really we thought our first ministry would be a ministry to the living. The doctors, the nurses, the staff members who would be terribly stressed out. And that's also proven to be the case. 70% of our time is there being present to and supporting staff members and volunteers. And and as I've said, sort of like to people in other interviews, that the word that keeps coming through, whether religious or non-religious, Catholic, Muslim, is hope. And there's something about our presence there which offers hope, a kind of a signal or a pointing towards something which transcends all of this that's going on. People are there in the hospital. They're trying to bring health to bodies that are failing, and it can be very all-consuming. And it's very easy, I think, to go down a black hole psychologically and mentally and spiritually. And having a priest close at hand, having someone who, by definition, operates from a different perspective, I think he's giving people an outlet. And conversations are really starting up. And they normally start up with, "I'm not religious, Father, but," and then the but leads on to a conversation, often ends in a moment of prayer together, or at least the offering of a mass, which is always gratefully accepted, whatever that person's belief is. But also some really interesting conversations. One of the chaps who heads up compassionate care, he's normally an orthopedic surgeon, but now he's heading up the sort of the compassionate care side of things, family liaison. Described himself as a failed Anglican. Oh, I suppose a lapsed one. I said, "No, you're not. You're an Anglican with potential, my friend." And he said that some of the stories which would come off the wards have moved him more than once to tears. So much so that he embarrassed me one time in one of the all-staff debriefs by making me stand up and tell the story of a baptism I performed on the ward, which got a round of applause from everyone. And it was like, of all the things to get an ovation, it would be a priest baptizing someone on an ITU. It's like that kind of, in a nutshell, sums up the value of our presence there.
And I think probably hope is the right word. This seems to have been a story that has captured the imagination, certainly of the BBC, the Evening Standard. It's been one of the most well reported, at least from a secular media point of view, of the church's contribution within these days. Why do you think this story of faith and chaplaincy and baptisms on the ward has captured the imagination of the nation so much, and of who ordinarily would be people not interested in religion at all?
Yeah, well, I think it's something that, by God's grace, there's something about how it landed just at the right time. I think, it's funny, as the curve has sort of flattened, so to speak, the negativity has hit peak. And so what you see is criticism of the government's approach, of overkill in the NHS, of the beds not being used and whatnot. And it's kind of in the air. It's very, I suppose that's just how human nature responds. And in the midst of that, it seems that this good news story has kind of captured the imagination. I've had nothing but sort of positive feedback from it. And again, maybe it's similar to the point I made about sort of what we represent when we're on site. It gives people kind of hope of a brighter future beyond coronavirus and beyond lockdown. Again, it is something which transcends all of it, because whether you've got the virus or not, whether you're suffering or thriving in lockdown, I think we're all looking to a different future, a new normal. And when we're looking at the prospect of something new, it instills fear and trepidation within us. None of us likes change, no matter how much we say we do. And in the midst of that, there's something new and good coming out of it. There's new life, there's hope, there's a smile being put on the face. And I think it just provides a bit of security that says, you know what, maybe we're going to be all right. Maybe there is a positive to the future that we face together. And it's just great. And to have the Catholic Church represented in such a positive way in the midst of this, you couldn't buy this free press, could you? Yeah.
Well, we're grateful for your ministry and your witness and the gift of your priesthood in these days. So prayers for everything you're doing at the Nightingale for as long as it's needed.
Lovely.
Thanks very much, James. God
All
bless.
Right. Thank you. Bye-bye.